started, I want to show you guys something today that basically goes over a simple way to structure your daily work when it comes to your your outbound sales, your outbound lead gen, those types of things. So in order to track those workflows effectively, it's going to be imperative to have a good tracking system in place. And this isn't just some basic, you don't need a complex CRM system. You don't need anything where like people always confuse this process and they think that it's, oh, let's get the shiny object. Let's get that new software that does this cool new feature that you don't end up using. So it's interesting, but I am a huge fan of CRMs. Don't get me wrong. What I am saying though, is this is more catered to people who want to just get started and have an easy way to diagnose their business, to know exactly where in your funnel you're going wrong, right? Because the funnel is not just generating leads. The funnel is also nurturing those leads. The funnel is also booking those leads. The funnel is also closing those leads. The funnel is also them showing up to their appointments and then paying you or not proceeding with you, right? And your job is to push as many people through that funnel, those stages, right? New lead, appointment booked, contract sent, right? Closed, right? Or lost, right? So you're just trying to push people through those stages. Now, I find that even that sounding so basic, the fact that it's just basic stages that you're pushing deals through, even as basic as that sounds, people still confuse the process. They still don't know what is going on in their business, how to pinpoint where the problems are in the funnel. Like, is your show rate bad, right? Is your booking rate bad? Are you not booking well, right? Is your proposal or contract rate bad, right? The amount of contracts you're sending, right? The amount of deals closed, is that conversion problem bad? So knowing where those stats are and where the laggers are and where the bottlenecks are inside that pipeline process will allow you to know exactly what you need to solve, right? Because if you're booking tons of appointments, but very few of them are showing up, it's not even that you have a closing problem. You're just not getting the people showing up to close them, right? So before you solve the closing, you should work on the show rate. Now, how can you increase your show rate? You can do things like adding auto text messages, adding more show up emails, adding a confirmation call the morning of the appointment. There's lots of other ways, and we're not going to get through all of them, but I really just want to showcase to you sort of what this can look like, what you should expect in doing this, and what kind of stats you'll get from this tracker. So we've developed a tracker that makes this whole process easy, of basically knowing where your funnel's at, knowing where your pipeline's at, pinpointing where the problems are. Because like I said, it's not about you just thinking you have an issue. It's about you actually using data to prove that you have the issue that you're saying you have. And if you're not tracking the right things in place, you will never, ever be in that position to fix those issues. Okay, so let's go ahead and share the screen here. So you guys should see my screen here now. Let me just, I'll just increase the size here of this. Perfect, you guys can see me okay. All right, so where we're at with this is our sales tracker. Okay, now this is a very, very, very powerful tool. It looks very basic, but it's a very, very powerful tool to be able to get, to be able to understand what the issues are in your pipeline. So let's just say that, up here, I'll explain the spreadsheet. So you have days, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, going all the way to 31. Okay, 31 is the 31st day of the month. Some months have 28 days, like February. Some months have 30 days, etc. Right? So, so this goes to 31 to account for each month, and then you can make a new tab by going right-click and copy to existing spreadsheet. Right? You can copy the exact same tab again and again and again. Just change it up for the appropriate month each time. That way, you have a historic view. But effectively, this is what you would want to do. You'd want to be tracking all of your outflows. So before I get into that and really, really dive into that, I want to make sure you guys understand what I mean by that. It's effectively every single time you're doing some kind of outbound outreach, whether it's, or lead gen for that matter. So whether it's cold calls, so how many cold calls are you doing per day, tracking your outbound calls, for example. right? Tracking your cold emails. How many outbound emails are you doing per day? Tracking your SMS. Maybe you're doing outbound cold SMS. Maybe you're doing LinkedIn messages. Maybe you're doing Facebook groups. Maybe you're doing LinkedIn ads, Twitter ads, YouTube, right? Like there's almost an endless plethora of what daily outflows you could be deploying, right? Like there's so many. So like theoretically, this list can even be like this high, right? With all these other amazing things. Like for example, let's just say like Kijiji messages, right? Even say like, let's just say Facebook group messages, right? You might be hitting up people inside Facebook groups. Or even like Facebook Marketplace is really good as well to like find people and do business with people. But ultimately, like you might be doing different styles of outflows. Remember, we're not tracking inbound, we are tracking outbound here. That's the goal. So with Facebook Marketplace message, it's amazing, but not necessarily the best strategy. There's a lot of strategies that you can deploy. Like, here we have outbound email, outbound call, outbound SMS, outbound LinkedIn message, outbound Kijiji, outbound Facebook Marketplace. We could just say outbound classified is what we'll say, / marketplace. Okay, so we'll delete the Kijiji one. This one kind of has everything to do with Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, right? Like Kijiji, right? Like how many groups are you posting in LinkedIn? How many groups are you posting in Facebook per day, right? And then these totals, they get tallied up over here. And every single day you'd come in. So I'm just going to delete the fat here. I don't want to convolute this. That way we can get through the whole spreadsheet here. So basically what it is let's just say today's like date was the 1st, even though it's the 24th today. Let's just say it was the 1st. I did, let's just say 49 outbound messages in local classifieds today, right? I did, let's just say, well, let's actually see how many outbound calls we had today. So you would check your CRM, exactly what I'm doing now. You would check your CRM. 1 second. Okay, so today we've already done 230 outbound calls. Yesterday we did 661. This last week we did about 2,000 of them. But anyway, so let's just say today, right? So it's the morning. We just got to the office, but let's just say 230 outbound calls today already. Outbound emails, let's see how many emails we sent. Sent emails 22 so far, so we only sent 22 this morning. You would do this every day at the same time. That way the data is not skewed by the time. It's rather just like every day at the same exact time. Outbound SMS, we sent a total of, let's just see, okay, we sent 15 SMS. And then LinkedIn message, we're doing about 100 a day there. Okay, so today, as you can see, we've done where it says right here, and I can zoom into this spreadsheet just to make sure you guys are seeing everything very clearly. Over here, this is the total outflow for today, right? Like this column, this is for today, okay? But I don't just track my outflows for today. I have to track the amount of calls I booked today as well. So let's do that, right? So amount of opportunities created, we have, here, let's just use yesterday is probably the best way to do this. Okay, so yesterday we had 21 appointments created. So you would put 21 in here, and that will be the amount of appointments you have, right? And then like, look, if you have a CRM, you can see pretty much all your stats like very, very nicely in your CRM. So for example, we've sent 91,000 outbound calls, right? We've had about, 17,000 sent emails, right? Like, 4,000 opportunities created, AKA 4,000 like booked appointments, right? So if you're actually tracking this daily, you not only track the amount you booked, right? So let's just say we booked 21. You also want to track the amount that showed up, right? So we have this list here called demo completed, not closed, which shows us the amount of demos that have been showing up. So look, we have like, for example, just in the last like 24 hours, we've had about 5 or 6 demos show up and a few close already. So let's just say 5 demos were completed. So 5 calls were completed, which means you've actually done the call. You haven't, they did not show, they were there for the call. You spoke about it, you got to your pricing, or you got to the mortgage application, or you got to, listings, or you got to whatever that closing mechanism is, right? And then you want to also track not only the calls completed, but of those calls completed, how many contracts were sent, right? So let's just say, I mean, I could open my contract software. I'm not going to do that, but let's just say we sent 3 of them. Of these 5 calls, we sent 3 contracts that day, for example, right? And this is a small scale lead gen, right? Like this is not, this is basic, right? And then you can track the deals won. Let's just say you got 1 deal, okay? And then you put the value of that deal, of all deals, right? So if you got 2 deals here, then you're going to put the value of those deals. So let's just say each deal was 10 grand. You're looking at 20, 1, 2, 3, boom, $20,000. Okay. That's for 1 day. Okay. Now, what I'd like to do is fill some more data here just to kind of show you what this sheet can do. Okay. So let's just say tomorrow you do 112 outbound Kijiji / Facebook Marketplace / Facebook groups. Let's just say you do less calls. So you do about 150 outbound calls. Outbound emails, you send about 50, so you're a little bit up there. Outbound SMS, 10 tomorrow. And then LinkedIn message, you're standardizing that at 100, right? So now you have like more outflows for the next day. And let's just say you track it the next day as well. Calls booked, let's just say we booked less. We booked 15 the day before, the day later. Of those 50, not of those 15, but rather that day we actually had about, let's just say 9 show up. Of the 9 that showed up, we've submitted 4 contracts. Of the contracts we've submitted, we closed 1 deal, okay, that day. Now, what you're seeing is at each stage of this, process, what you're going to see is that not only are you tracking your outflows by day, so you can track to see if your team is doing effectively, especially if you're hiring outbound people to, offshore people to help you with this kind of stuff. But ultimately, this would be the daily drill down that you'd have for the whole month, which is nice. And you'd see exactly your booking rate. You see the yellow, these are the yellow ones. The yellow ones are like pretty much what we're trying to solve for, what we're trying to understand, because the yellow ones are the ones that tell you the problem in your business. But you have to fill the blue ones, right? In order to get the yellow ones, which are the diagnosis, right? These yellow indicators, these yellow KPIs are the ones that tell you the issue. So you can never feel like, oh, I don't know what the issue is. Oh, I need help. Let me go hire a marketing agency. Let me go do all. No, it's because you don't have the right tracking system in place to know the issues in your business, to know where exactly the funnel is going wrong. So this is why we have this system. And that's why when you look at the booking rate here, what you're seeing here is for all the outflows you're doing. So on this day, you did 367 outflows, which means your offer was pumped out 367 times into the universe, right? For all those outflows, you booked 21 appointments, which means you have about a 6% booking rate on your outbound outreach, which is fantastic, right? Anywhere between 2 and 6%, 2 and 10% actually is like amazing, right? Usually 2 and 3% is the average for people. I've seen as low as 1%, depending on what outflow type you're doing. But 6% is great because you're going to have to dial 100 people to get, let's just say, 6 to 10 booked appointments. That's just how it works with cold calling. That's how it works with cold emailing. You're going to have to send, 50 emails a day to get 1 booked appointment, etc. Right? And you can expand those channels, is my point. Like, this is just a basic version. How it really should look once you get all the lead gen mechanisms up and running, especially the ones that I teach about. Those ones there should all be in here as well. You should be tracking all your outflows, right? Okay, but I'm not going to backtrack here. I want to make sure we're moving forward. So now that you know like what the daily booking rate is, you can actually give out bonuses to your staff and or yourself for the sake of these stats being favorable. And then so if, like, for example, if your lead gen people have a high booking rate, then ultimately you can give them a bonus based on their booking rate. So if their booking rate's above, let's just say 7%. Per week, anything above 7%, they get, let's just say $50, right? For that day, right? Nice, doesn't hurt, right? To incentivize the mechanisms that you're looking to deploy, the things that you're looking to have in your business to actually scale. Now, anyways, so you got your booking rate, you also have your show rate. Now, this is going to tell you of the people you booked, how many actually showed up, how many calls were completed. So 15 people booked, let's just say tomorrow, and 9 of them showed. That's a 60% show rate, right? Same thing with this, 21 booked, 5 showed, right? It's a little lagged because some of the people you're booking that day, they're the ones that, like, you just scheduled it. So the meeting's actually later, it's later in the week. But what you want to track still is that mechanism of how many people are showing up per day based on the amount of appointments you have on the calendar. And that'll tell you exactly what your issue is. Because if you have a 40% show rate, according to this, that's the issue, right? Like it clearly shows what the problems are. Booking rate above anywhere, like I said, anywhere between 2 and 10%. I'm going to put here 2% to 10% is perfect. Like that is amazing. You just got to scale your outflows and then you'll get lots more appointments. Okay. Now, calls booked. This one here, like I said, 2 to 10% on bookings. Show rate, you're gonna want at least a 60 to 70% show rate. That's where we want to be when it comes to show rates, because like, look, it's never going to be perfect. You're never going to have everyone showing up to your appointments. I'm sorry, that's just not a thing. Like I've seen a lot of companies, they will like decline invitations. Like if people don't RSVP and they don't say, hey, I'm going to show up to this appointment to you, then I've seen a lot of people actually decline those meetings and say you have to RSVP to get on our calendar. I've seen companies like that. I don't like that approach. I'm not a fan of it because sometimes people don't show, yet you call them a day later because they're on your CRM or, they're in someone's pipeline. And that you call them 2 days later, you get them back on the calendar and they end up closing. So I'm not a really big believer in, shying away people that haven't RSVP'd. But what you should expect, like I said, under my methodology is 60 to 70% show rates. Okay. It's never going to be perfect. It's not an exact science. You always have to increase it. Now, how can you increase show rates, right? You can actually do call confirmations, like I said, in the morning of each appointment. Make sure you have someone on your team or yourself confirming all the appointments on the calendar that day. That's going to be very valuable because now in the morning which one's agreed. Yes, I'll be there at 2 p.m. and I'll be in front of my computer. Yes, I'll be there at 6 p.m. and I'll have the mortgage application filled. Yes, I will, be there at 11 a.m. and I will have your dentist intake form filled, right? For example, whatever the hell it is, it doesn't really matter. The idea is that you want to have your process to make sure people show. You can do that with auto text messages. So when people book you, an hour before the appointment, they get an auto text saying, hey, we're going to call you at this time. Or auto emails, saying, hey, a little bit about the programs beforehand, little testimonials beforehand. That way the show rate can increase because the belief in your service or product is a lot higher. Okay. So that's how you can increase show rates. How you can increase booking rates is ultimately just do some conversion rate optimization on your outreach, right? So do some split testing, see what works, right? Use a different hook here on the LinkedIn message. Use maybe you run 50 LinkedIn messages with this hook and then 50 LinkedIn messages with another hook. And then maybe potentially in your outbound SMS, like put more case studies in it, for example, that might help you, get more bookings, right? Or your outbound emails, like there's some really cool softwares that let you like cold email pictures. And those pictures will have like, let's just say a whiteboard. Imagine I had a whiteboard right here and I was writing on the whiteboard and it said your name on it, right? So like it's computer generated. You're not actually writing on the whiteboard. It's a computer generated image that says the lead's name on it so that it looks as if like I wrote this out on a piece of paper. So that's a really cool software. I believe Lemlist offers that. If you guys are interested in that, there's a software called Lemlist that you can take a look at. But yeah, ultimately, like once again, this is what we're trying to solve for. We're trying to solve for the sales flywheel here, right? So this is, outflows going out, right? So these are all the outflows. They're going out every single day. We want those going out every single day. We want to be booking appointments. We want to be closing those appointments into customers. We want to be turning those customers into case studies. We want to be taking those case studies and putting them back on our offers, back on our outflows, back on our outreach, so that the whole thing performs a lot better because there's more proof in the pudding because you took your case studies, your testimonials, and you put them on your outreach and your ads, and that performs better. So how do you increase your booking rate? Like I said, put more case studies on your outreach, right? As well, how do you increase your booking rate? Split test, try different things. Like I said, marketing is not a science. You're going to throw a bunch of balls against the wall and you're going to see what balls stick. That's the goal here, right? And the ones that stick are the ones that you're going to redeploy against the wall. You're only going to deploy those ones moving forward because they stick, right? And so that's what you got to do. So you got to be testing to see what sticks, and you got to be also reworking what already did stick, right? But anyway, so that's how you would do that. Now moving on to proposals. So this is like just how many contracts you're sending for the calls that get completed. You got to be sending contracts. That this effectively is a measurement of the sentiment of each appointment, right? Because if you have 9 appointments on the calendar, yet you're only sending, let's just say like 2 of these, like imagine you're only sending 2 proposals or 2 contracts for each appointment that actually shows up and the demo gets completed. Like these are completed calls completed. Like these are full completed sales pitches, right? Not just, hey, how are you? Like, and then that call was completed. No, it's full demos, like end to end, like they've got to pricing, they know all about the service, they know everything about it. That's what a call completed is. And of those call completions, what you want is you want to have a high proposal rate. You want people getting your contracts and your proposals, because the more contracts you put into the world, the more proposals you put into the world, the more fish will bite effectively on your on what you're selling. And so this is a very, very big indicator as to, first of all, how good is the sales rep? Are they sending proposals? Like, are people actually interested? It's also a metric that will determine your proposal rate, will determine, you know, basically what the sentiment of your pitch is. Because if I'm completing so many pitches and I'm completing these pitches, yet very few are getting proposals and testimonials, it can mean 2 things. 1, the leads I'm talking to don't qualify for my service, so I can't send them a proposal. Or 2, the sentiment or the resonance of my offer is not necessarily like infiltrating or penetrating that specific lead or that market I'm trying to serve. So it's really an offer resonance metric as well. You know, proposals, how many proposals am I sending, right? Like that's, without proposals, you don't, or without contracts, you don't have revenue coming in if you're in the pipeline business, right? And that goes for real estate, mortgages, you know, service businesses, like literally anything, intake forms, patients, chiropractic, like any service ultimately, right? And then the closing rate, and this is ultimately the juiciest and best metric to have, because what you're saying here, close rate, you can do it in one of 2 ways. You see in the calculation how what I'm doing is I'm dividing the deals won by the proposals sent. So people do that, like, because that's like, okay, I'm sending them this contract. Now I'm measuring whether that contract closed. But I know a lot of people that don't measure close rates like that. They measure it based on the calls completed, not the proposals sent. So instead of doing the deals won divided by the proposal submitted or contract sent, you would do divided by the calls completed. Okay. And now you can see that because I had 5 people show up in my calls completed, I had 5 people show up. And then of those 5, we closed 2. That means we have a 40% close rate. You see what I mean? So you can set it up however you want. Like there's this calculation where it's deals won divided by the contract sent. I personally like this one a lot more because it's really just like calls completed means they got to pricing, they heard your pitch, like how good's your pitch, did they close ultimately, right? So I like to do this one where you do deals won divided by the calls completed. Okay, I'm going to speed through this now and show you the power of this spreadsheet and why it's so powerful. Let me just copy all this outflow data all the way for the whole month. Okay, so let's just say I had all these outflows. Oh, some of these are negative. Let me go back here. I'm going to go like this. This should solve that. Okay. Anyway, so I got all my outflows in here, right? And I'm just going to keep it simple, 310 a day. But theoretically, like it could actually, here. So it's actually a little bit more outflows. I just missed the calc there, but yeah, here you go. All right, so you have, let's just say 422 outflows, right, per day. Let's just keep it simple. These will all vary per day. Like I said, it's not going to always be exactly set in stone. It's going to be different every day, and you want to track the exact number. Do not sheep out on the exact number, okay? Now, once you get all that, let's just say that we have something like this as well. These are going downhill as well. So let me grab that, put this here. Okay, let's just say we have 9 booked a day. Okay, we're getting 9 calls booked a day, for example. And then let's just say we get 5 completed per day. 5, 4, 2, 7. Right, different numbers, that's fine. And then let's just say, make it a little variant. That way you can see the power of this. Okay, so let's grab the sixes and just say 6 effectively for the rest of the month here. Okay, so let's just say you track the month, you have your calls booked for the month, you have your calls completed for the month, you have your proposals submitted for the month. Let's just keep it simple and say 2 a month. The whole idea of this is not to have it all the same. It's never going to be the same. You're going to have like, 4 here, right? You're going to have like 1 submitted here. You're going to have like, 9 submitted this day, for example. And then over here, deals 1, let's just say we're going to operate with the same sort of instance here, 2 and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and 1 a day, pretty much. Okay, so I'm just setting up this spreadsheet now. Of this one, let's just say we close this one for 5,000. We close these 2 for 5,000 each to make it 10,000. We close this one for 10,000. We close these 2 for, let's just say 8,000 total, right? And this is the total deal volume, right? Let's just say we close this one for 4,000. Let's just say we close this one for 1,000. Let's just say we close this one for 20,000. Say we close this one for 35,000. Say we close this one for 2,000, so on and so on and so on. Okay. Fill this data here, show you exactly what this spreadsheet will do for your life. It will change your life if properly deployed. 15,000 on this one. Okay, I'm not going to fill the rest of the month on deal volumes, but you see here now. Let's look at column C, right? Column C, what it's doing is it's amalgamating all the months, all the days, and all the outflows for that one category. So you can see for the month, outbound Kijiji, outbound Facebook Marketplace, outbound classifieds, we did 3,500 for the month, let's just say, right? Outbound calls, right? 4,700 for the month, right? That's a lot, right? Outbound emails, 1,500 for the month, right? Outbound SMS, right? 315 of them for the month, right? Outbound LinkedIn messages, 3,100 of them for the month, right? Now, this is the magic number. You see that? Total outflow. 13,076 outflows will change your life. That's this part here. If you do 13,000 of those in a month, how many appointments do you think you're going to book? Well, let's see. We booked 297 according to this data here, this dummy data, this spreadsheet here, with above 2% booking rate, right? Above 2% is good. 2 to 10% is great, right? Calls booked, that's fantastic. Like, 300 calls booked in the month. How many of those do you think you're going to close? Well, according to this, you closed 47 of them. So you know that you have a 66% close rate, but let's just say we do the close rate based on not the proposal submitted, but rather calls completed. You actually have a 26% close rate, 30% close rate. That's more accurate, right? But anyway, so with that being said, like, look, now your booking rates all match up. By the way, proposal rates, I just want to make sure these should be 50% to 70% of all calls completed. Closing rate should be, it depends how you're measuring it. If you're measuring it based on deals 1 divided by calls completed, then you're going to need to do anywhere between 20%, percent to 30%. And that will be like a good close rate. If you're measuring close rate based on deals 1 divided by proposals submitted, then 60 to 80% will be a better rate. But anyways, so let's go through this, right? So now that you have all these monthly stats, your goal for the following month, for example, for February, in this example, will be to beat all of these stats. So all the stats next month, you have to have more outflows next month. You have to have a better booking rate next month. You have to have more calls booked next month. You have to have a better show rate next month. You have to have more calls completed next month. You have to have more contracts sent out, more proposals sent out. And you also have to have a higher close rate next month. This is so simple. It makes it easy. And all you do is come in here daily. You do this once a day. You fill all the stats for one day, and you'll know exactly what you need to do, not only next month, the following month after in your sales process. So like from like a goal orientation standpoint, from a goal completion standpoint, this is really makes the thing clear from the sales process. Now, what you should also look at here, and this is the drill down in metrics, and this is like the real power. This is the real power of the spreadsheet. You're going to get the amount of revenue made, okay, per metric, okay? So per outflow, so remember we did 13,000 outflows, right? Per outflow, we made $11.26. So it really puts into perspective. It's like, because we made 150K, let's just say, right? Of the 150K, we only did 13,000 outflows to get 150K total. I don't care about the rest of the stats right now. I just want to know how much revenue of this 150K did I earn per outflow. So, and how do I do that? I just take 150K and I divide it by the amount of outflows, and that gives me revenue earned per outflow. Can you imagine that? This puts it into perspective, because now it's not about how many calls you're booking and all these amazing things, like all the contracts sending. It's really like you're getting paid on the outflows. That really changes the game, because, and this is what outflow attribution looks like, because it's like, you're going to have outflows every day. These are going to vary every single day. You'll be able to track your growth, your progress, and all that. But it's like, now I know that, okay, even if I hide all of this, like, let me just go here and just go hide rows, right? The only thing you see here now is outflows. That's it. And if you just focus on those, you'll be able to earn $11.26 per outflow. And that is, I guess, the methodology that we have going on here. Hold on 1 second. Fix this spreadsheet a little bit. Okay, cool. So that's there. All right. So with that being said, it's like, look, now I know I made $11.26 per outflow, and per booked call, every single time I had a booked call on the calendar, we made $495 per booked call, whether they close or not, whether they show up or whether they don't show up. It doesn't matter. The fact every call booked on the calendar, according to these KPIs, I'm making $495 per booked appointment. Now, this is effectively just revenue divided by the amount of calls booked per the month. Okay. Now, per proposal is I'm making $2,000 for every single contract I send out. So that should tell you we should be sending out more contracts, right? And then per deal close, you're getting your average order value, which is basically the total sales for the month divided by total deal count for the month, and that'll get you the average revenue per customer. So, and not only that, do you have it for the whole month, like the totals, but you also have it by day. So you can give people rewards and incentivize your sales process just by day, like by the day. Like you can see on this day, we made $23 per outflow. So imagine sending even one LinkedIn message to someone. You send one LinkedIn message to someone, and that's the one outflow, and you made $23, right? It doesn't actually work like that. You have to do volume. You actually have to pump out a lot. But the point is that you're making money per outflow, and then you'll have statistics here to actually break down, every single metric here. It's just going to really pull in all the data, from all your outbound SMS. It's just flatlining, because that's what I did here. I flatlined it all with the same data. So that's why it's not really showing variability. But if I go here and let's just say like 250 here, and then like 700 here, and then like 1,500 here, and then like 10, and then like 26. Now you can see that there's that huge spike. So that spike just automatically got created, and it's telling me which outflow channel is the best one. And then you do this for each and every month of the year until you get to your annual summary, which will pull all the annual data across all the different months. And you'll be able to see year by year. So now, not only do you have to beat yourself in the totals column, you have to beat yourself basically every other month. So if you got these stats this month, next month you have to like do more, right? There has to be a growth rate. The annual summary will tell you the growth rate in the month on your metrics. So honestly, like a lot of people, they think they don't know what they're doing kind of thing. This should really kind of clarify that for you. It's very simple what you need to be doing. You just need to be optimizing these statistics. You need to be consistent. You need to have high volume in your outflows. and you need to be converting, and you need to know where the problems are at in the business, because ultimately, this makes that whole thing clear as day. Okay. So, if there are any questions, throw it in the chat. We can go ahead and go over those things, no problem. But for the most part, this is going to change the game for you guys. So what I'll do is I will go ahead here and make a copy of this. And just toss this copy into the chat here. And then you guys can just go ahead and start using this. Make a copy for yourselves. Please go ahead and check the link that I just put in the chat. It'll either be in the chat or it'll be in the description below. But ultimately, we do use this as a way to track the success of campaigns. If you're not going to do that, if you're not going to use this, it is manual. It does take time. It does take effort. But it gives you so much clarity in your business, almost as if like you're a doctor and you know the exact diagnosis to provide to the patient kind of thing. Like, this is exactly what that will do for you. So this isn't like a, hey, how do you do lead gen? This is, okay, like, first have a process for what you're doing, and then scale your lead gen, right? Because now it's all clear as day, and you can figure out how to increase all these things, right? Show rates can be increased, close rates can be increased. You got to give money back guarantees. You got to give, risk reversals. You got to give, for close rates, how do you increase that? You got to be more personable. You got to be likable. The product has to have lots of case studies and value and delivered results to people. Ultimately, the more case studies you have, the more close rate, all these stats will go up with more case studies. So just remember, and that's why we have it in the Outflow, the sales flywheel. That's why we're taking case studies and testimonials and repackaging them on our marketing efforts, because that is what will drive more book rates, and more book rates bring more show rates, and more show rates bring more calls completed, and more calls completed brings more contracts brings more closes brings more revenue brings more profit, right? It's all interrelated. You just have to clear it out of your mind, take the cloud out of your mind, and focus on the stats that matter. Okay. Very, 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 very key. And then, you know what, you're going to get to a point where, and this is how, like, I started. I don't actually use this so much now. This is the best thing to start with, though. This will be really good for sales teams as well, but ultimately you can also build all of these statistics into your CRM. Okay. All the stats can be pre-built into your CRM. It's not outlandish to say that you can have really good stats in your CRM. Like, you can put out, all these different amazing stats that your CRM might come with, and then you can create what's called custom activities, depending on the CRM you're with, but you can create custom activities that can be custom things. Like, for example, proposals submitted, you can create a custom activity that will track the amount of proposals submitted. You can have all these statistics all right in your CRM. The only thing is that, and this is what I do, I take it all right from my CRM. You can either fill this spreadsheet from the stats in your CRM, or you can build all these KPIs and these metrics into your CRM. It'll take a lot longer to do that. Like, it'll take a lot of effort, a lot of automations, and a lot of time to do that, to set it all up into your CRM, especially to get this KPI drill down here of, like, the amount of revenue per outflow, revenue per booked call, revenue per contract sent, and revenue per deal closed. Like, this one's easy to get, revenue per deal closed, but these three are a little bit harder to get inside your CRM. You have to do a couple workarounds. So there's a trade-off, and you guys can also, divvy this up. You can, grab, the full thing here and, like, delete, let's just say, the columns that don't matter to you, and you can restructure, the spreadsheet as needed for you, depending on what data you have in your CRM versus what data you're looking to put here. Completely up to you, but ultimately that's the point. Is this is V1. We go from version 1 to version 2, version 2 to version 3, right? That's what I keep preaching, and ultimately this is version 1. And then from version 1 to version 2 is building it into your CRM and having a real automated process that works like a charm. And that's where we're at right now. So we don't need to necessarily use this as much. It is valuable still, and it would make sense, and it's visual and nice and it's great. But this is all in our CRM, and we're tracking this stuff because we've built this all out. It takes a long time to do so. That's why I want to give you a low-hanging fruit here, to be able to really pinpoint the diagnosis in your business, know exactly what the problems are, and solve the issues. Okay. So without further ado, thank you so much, guys, for watching. And, we will, I'll definitely look forward to seeing you guys, next week. Raise your hand if that was valuable at all. Any value there, just raise your hand. Awesome sauce. Nice. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time today. And guys, like I said, it's in the chat, so don't miss out on it. Go get that in the chat. Start building it out. And yeah, let's understand the problems in our business now, and let's start solving those issues. Okay. So thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.